everyone, welcome to another episode of the Cubica AMF Tech Tip Podcast. This is a weekly podcast where we take you on a journey through the fascinating world of bowling technology and beyond. As always, I'm your host, Orly, and we have another special guest today. We have Charles Craig on the show. Charles, thank you again for joining.
Thanks, Orly. It's great to be back.
And Charles, as always, I'm going to ask that question I ask every single time. Can you let everyone know what your title is with Cubica AMF and what you do within that title, please?
Sure. So, Charles Craig. I am a Cubica AMF Max trainer. I am the Cubica AMF employee that will take you through either your on-site or your virtual training. I also help with some of these podcasts and do some other online learning. Yeah,
you've definitely did enough podcasts to be to add podcaster to your resume. I definitely do that. You know, if you ever need a recommendation, not to leave the company or anything, but if you ever need to, hey, I'm a podcaster, I will definitely talk to someone about that because you've did enough episodes here. I think you've probably did the most. It's not a competition, but you've definitely, I think, are in the top 2 or 3 people that have did podcasts with me. So I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've had a good teacher. I've had you guiding me through all this, and you are the podcast pro at this point.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I take that with pride. So Charles, you were on the show here, just on a past show, and you covered, profiles within the Q Portal. And I know you wanted to come back on and kind of cover a little bit more about that, so I'm going to let you kind of just take it from here and discuss what you want to talk about, who might need this and how they can do it.
Yeah, of course. So last time we spoke, we went over some of the roles and privileges and user setup in Q Portal. We talked a little bit about why that's important for administering BestNV or doing Neoverse work, but another side of it is also Square. If you are going to be going through the Square restaurants and Concur integration at some point, you're going to have to give certain employees special permissions to administer that. So back in our Q Portal, where we were last time, if you go to your roles and privileges, if we scroll almost all the way down towards the bottom, we have an option in there for Square. And then inside of that, there are 4 options that are nested. One that is manage integration and monitoring. One is access and manage the item library and booking fee. One is allow to pair Square terminals. And one is access the connection to Square. So for anyone that will be doing the initial Square setup with Conqueror, all of those are going to be necessary. It's also necessary that whoever is doing it has owner or admin level permission for their Q Portal account. If you're curious as to if you do or don't, go into your Q Portal, click on users, and it will have a little owner or admin flag there next to your name. Of course, going through training, going through the integration, your Cubica AMF Max trainer will make sure that whoever's going to be doing it will have that permission level, or we have that person on the call with us.
Okay.
Even if you're just doing the Square payments integration, access connection to Square and then allow to pair Square terminals are really important options. These days with Square, it's really easy if you ever need to swap out a pen pad, credit card reader. Before it used to be a bit of a process. Now it's just going in and swapping out a device code. But for someone to log into Q Portal and get that new device code, they have to have access to that allow to pair Square terminals user permission. So that's always a great one just for managers to have.
Okay.
And then the access and manage the item library. Those are also really important. Maybe not for every employee, but for those, managers, GMs, someone that's going to need to be changing pricing or adding or removing items. So it's just something important to consider, that if they're going to be doing sort of the administration with Square, they have access to those items. I always say, if you're unsure of, which role or privilege, kind of the subset you should make, go in and just make a new role. Go in and add a role and call it, Tech Wizard plus Square or GM plus Square or something, just so you can easily look at it and say, oh yeah, well, my shift manager Orly needs access to Square. So I'll go ahead and give him that role. And then, of course, once you're finished, just make sure that you apply that new role to that user. Also, any of your employees that will be using, Square throughout the integration process, you also have to have certain roles and permissions within Square. Most of those are either considered management or a team member. And that it would be something that you would, kind of approach when you're setting up your Square account initially.
Okay. Well, Charles, we appreciate you coming on today with that information. That's some great information. We have some customers with, like you mentioned, that they're getting Square. So I know that's going to help them out. And as always, everyone, if you have any, questions on these shows or show ideas, feel free to send those in, and we'll get Charles to come back on and cover those.
Always happy. Always like something new to work on.
All right, Charles, we appreciate you coming on again today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me back, Orly.
Yeah, and everyone out there, thanks for listening to the Cubica AMF Tech Tip Podcast. We're here each week to support centers like yours with expert advice and the latest in bowling innovation. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and be sure to share this podcast with your team, coworkers, or anyone who could benefit. Until next time, we'll talk to everyone soon.